G'day and welcome back to Dairy Farms, me Farmer Jake. Today's video is well, we're going to delve into productions. And not necessarily base game productions, we're going to delve into the productions that are available on ModHub. Because they are not always what they seem. Some of them are incredibly profitable, and some of them end up costing you money. And we're going to take a look at why that is. Now, I'm not going to examine every mod and tell you whether it's profitable and worth downloading or whether it's a money loser. We're just going to look at the concept so you can figure it out for yourself. Now, I recently downloaded and installed this mod, which is the fruit greenhouse, which allows you to grow in a greenhouse either grapes and olives. And it surprised me for a couple of reasons. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit. But first, let's talk about base game mods and how they work. Because I think Giant spent a lot of time with the base game mods trying to do the calculations as to whether or not, well, obviously they're all profitable. It's just a matter of how much profit you make off of them. And based on the cheat sheet that I had, you make anywhere from 100 to 200% on average, depending on the full production cycle. So, for example, turning barley, which sells for $1,000, into flour, you're going to make a reasonable amount of money. But then you have to take it one step further and you have to turn that flour into bread, and you make a little bit more money. Well, I'm finding that some of the mods you download off of ModHub are doubling that money, sometimes tripling that money, and other mods are losing you money. So I thought it was very important to look at why, and like I said, to show you how you can figure out whether a mod is going to work for you or whether it's not going to work for you. If this is the type of video you like, make sure you subscribe, because I think I am going to start doing more analyses of production mods to find out exactly what their profitability is when they get released on ModHub. Anyway, before we go any further, let's take a look at the base game mods. There are only two mods in the base game that I consider are productions that I consider free. Those are greenhouses, real greenhouses, and if you want to call animals part of the production chain, which they are, bees. Greenhouses require absolutely nothing except $2 a month to operate. I'm going to say nothing because water is free. There are plenty of either mods out there to give you free water, or you can drive to a lake or river and get free water. Same with bees. All you have to do is place the beehive. Now, I'm not going to look at the cost of placing production buildings and factoring those in, because they vary wildly. If we look here at the cost of, let's say the big animal barn, it is $750,000 and it holds 80 cows. And yet, let's take the dairy that you need to process that milk. It's $70,000. And it will take the milk you produce from your 80 cows and it will make you a ton more money. I think that's reversed. I think the cow sheds should have been a lot cheaper, and production's more expensive. Now, I know some of you are going to disagree with me on that and say you think the price of productions is just fine. That's entirely up to you, and that's the way way you want to play the game. But in real life, a full-fledged dairy like this would be well over $1 million. Now, before we go any further, and I'll talk about the mods that I have questions about in a second, for those of you new to the channel, I want to make sure you understand the concept of opportunity costs in economic terms. Basically, it's the cost of what you could have done with product A if you did one thing with it instead of doing the second thing with it. And the easiest way to look at that is the pig farm. Wrong screen. Pigs. Let's go to animals. Piggies. Here we go. So, this is a slightly modified pig barn. It holds 100,000 liters of pig food. And as you can see, pig food is broken down into 50% corn, 25% grains. I know you guys already know most of this. Protein and root crops. Now, the base food at 50% is corn. Let's look at what corn is selling for. And we happen to be in the perfect month for that, because corn is selling at its high price of $1,400. If I send it to Goldcrest Valley, let's say I don't send it to Goldcrest Valley, on average, it's about $1,300 for. Well, we're gonna go with $1,400. Sorry, excuse my flip-flopping. So I can sell 1,000 liters of corn and make $1,400. Or I can choose to feed it to my pigs and just make whatever profit margin I get off of my pigs. So that's my opportunity cost, is to sell it versus feed it. Looking at the big picture, if we look at pig food, now on this level, $900 a bag for 1,000 liters of pig food. So if I sell 1,000 liters of corn, I make $1,400. If I buy 1,000 liters of pig food, and remember, pig food covers all 4 of the food categories. I don't have to input anything else. All I have to do is input the bag of pig food. So I've sold my corn for $1,400. I've purchased a bag of pig food for $900. I have therefore profited $400 by selling my corn on the open market. I know there are some people that, when I did my animal video explaining why you should feed pigs pig food instead of, making the mix yourself, said, well, that's on easy and medium, but that's what we're not dealing with difficulty modes, we're dealing with a concept. So that's, again, the opportunity cost. So my choice is to sell it on the open market and buy my pig food. Continuing with base game productions and animals, for the most part, Giants were very careful when they set in place their productions to make sure that you would make a reasonable amount of money by selling product A to a production facility as opposed to selling it on the open market. Again, ignore the anomaly of pig food. There may have been a reason they did that. I don't know. Well, actually, you know what I do? I think because pigs usually tend to eat the scraps, they tend not to be fed. They tend to be fed the byproducts as opposed to be fed the product directly. So I'm just going to theorize and say Giant's bag of pig food is made with byproducts of, let's say, sugar beet and potatoes as opposed to the actual full-fledged potatoes and stuff themselves. Okay, anyway, I digress. What was I thinking? Yeah, for the most part, Giants have made sure that if you sell, well, let's take chickens for an example, since we're by the chicken farm. I put in barley, which is the cheapest input cost. I get a reasonable amount of eggs in return. My return on investment is a couple of $100. It's nothing excessive. I'm not going to get excessively rich just by making eggs. Although eggs are profitable. And I definitely recommend them. But another example is cereal. Cereal takes honey. Now, honey has zero input costs, as I said, because bees don't require any food. But you have to grow the corn for it, which has input costs. You have to grow the oats for it, which also have input costs. Your opportunity cost for oats is quite high, because oats is even more profitable than corn to sell. And what am I missing in terms of production for cereal? Oh, raisins. Yes, good old grapes. So grapes have to be turned into raisins. Raisins can either be sold on the open market for a good price or turned into cereal. Either which way, I have a cheat sheet that I downloaded where somebody actually did the math, and again, you make a reasonable profit by selling cereal. It's not printing money. And by that, I mean it keeps the game fairly balanced. It's worth doing the productions as well. I mean, you could be a straight cash crop farmer or dairy farmer if you wanted to in this game. It's going to take you a little bit longer to be able to maximize everything, but it's still gonna be decent in terms of making money. Productions just add that extra little bit. So back to the point of this video. Some productions, and I disagree with these personally, and this is just my play style, make far too much money. And I'm gonna look at, where are they? Bread. Okay, bread sells for about, I should be selling my bread today. 5,500. Let's just say 5,000 because this is a really good price. Now, the other bakery that I had downloaded and had been using was the Donut Factory by Shaba. It pretty much takes the same inputs as the bread does, but it produces a lot faster. And as you can see, it sells for it sells for pretty much double the price that bread does. Yes, agree. Well, these aren't really donuts. They're bagels if you look at them closely when they're produced. Lost in translation. Anyway, so I kind of viewed this one. I stopped using it because I kind of viewed it as a money printing press. If I needed money that badly, I don't know. I guess I would cheat it in. So that's the one flip side of the coin, is you have some productions where I don't know if the author intentionally made it into a money printing machine or whether he took what was in the base game, adjusted the recipe a little bit, and didn't factor in just how much money it was going to make in a month. I will be doing, and this is a sidebar, I will be doing a video on Maze Plus, and the author did actually state in one of the tutorials that I was reading, in the README, he stated that his production rate and animal consumption rate was based on a 3-day month. Therefore, if you are only running a 1-day month, you are going to it'll still require the same amount of food. It's just you're going to have to produce 3 times as much food in 1 day instead of spreading it over 3. Whether that was the intention with some of these other mods, that, yeah, they're assuming the person's going to be making 3-day months, so you're going to be dividing that profit over 3 days as opposed to a single day. I don't know. That's beside the point. Whether you run it 1 day or whether you run it 3 days, you're still making a massive amount of money per month. And again, using donuts as an example, if you do what you do with bread and you save it to the best times of the year, you have a ton of donuts to sell. And you can make $1 million in a flash. More, in fact. Now, that brings me to the flip side of the coin. There are other productions that I have downloaded where I started to run them and I was like, oh my god, I'm actually losing money. Again, nothing to do with the number of days in the month. It's the way the productions was set up. And I'm going to talk about the Fish Factory. Sadly, I have deleted the Fish Factory and I can't take a look. Well, I could reinstall it, but I've already leveled the ground that it was on, and it's gone. But it turns out to be a money loser. And I ended up actually looking online to see if anyone else had done any actual analyses of the Fish Factory instead of just a review. And turns out Pharmacop came to the same conclusion I did. You actually lose money with the Fish Factory, especially when you factor in your opportunity costs. The big killer with the Fish Factory is the amount of mineral feed it takes, and you lose something like $80,000 a month because you have to put so much mineral feed into it. Outside of that, it seems most other people just, for review purposes, showed that the Fish Factory worked. They cheated in the inputs, and they didn't actually do a costing of whether it was valuable or not. So again, leave a comment if you would like to start seeing a review of productions to see whether or not they are profitable, not profitable, or excessively profitable. Okay, on that note, to try and not make this video excessively long, the next production I'm going to talk about is the one we initially looked at, which is the Fruit Greenhouse. I downloaded and installed this because I was like, yay, a simple way to make grapes and olives. I, again, hate farming grapes and olives. The harvester runs way too slow. It might be realistic to run at 5 miles an hour, but when you are trying to harvest a field this size, it takes a long time. And then, of course, you have to take in pruning, cultivation, and everything else. And even with a field this size, I think I only filled 2/3 of my grape production. And I had a similar field that size where I was doing olives. And again, a similar problem. So I was like, fantastic. Grape and olive greenhouses. let's take a quick look at the production inputs for these warehouses or production facilities. On a quick sidebar, I didn't know how quickly because I just plopped down 4 of them, assuming that 2 grapes and 2 olive greenhouses would keep me going. I didn't actually look at the production cycle, which is something else that's important. But I did look at what they required, and they require 100,000 liters of water, seed, solid fertilizer, and herbicide. So we're going to go back and we're going to say water is a zero cost item because I can fish it for free out of the river or pond. Seeds, 100 seeds, $80. Liquid fertilizer and herbicide is still both 100 of each. So 100, 200, 300, 400. So 400 production gives you 500 grapes. Pretty good return on investment. I worked it out that it costs you, if you do, like I said, seeds based on $80 per 100 seeds, solid fertilizer and herbicide, it works out to roughly $400 to get $500 worth of, 500 units of grapes. Multiply that by 2. Grapes sell for, even at the worst time of the year, they sell for quite a bit more.
Do you get points for how long you last?
1,400 is the lowest point. So even at 800 or 900, I am still making $500 to $600 off of my grapes. If I sell them directly, I'm making a lot more if I sell them at the highest season. And then I'm also making even more if I turn them into raisins and grape juice.
Is the strat just not right?
And we're back to the production screen. The thing I hadn't been prepared for was how much, and I forgot to look at the production cycles per month. I didn't look at how much was going to get produced. And you can watch 129 is going to go up to 133 liters. It produces very, very quickly. So this is a great alternative to my supply problem of hating farming grapes and olives. However, it's also a little bit of a cash cow. By cash cow, I mean you can produce so many grapes and olives that you're going to make a profit, a huge profit each year over the base game. Now, I have 2 options, mainly because I try and play realistically. Like I said, the only reason I'm using this is because I actually hate the process of grapes and olives. I can either go into being a PC player. Fortunately, I can either go into the XML and reduce the cycles per month to something realistic so it produces a realistic amount to keep me in business for the year, based on the fact that, or the equivalency of having a field. Or what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to, when I have a little bit more, actually I already have plenty of grapes, I'm just gonna deactivate it, and then I'm gonna let that sit deactivated until I actually run out of grapes and olives in my production facilities and need more. Like I said, for some of you, that's not going to be a problem. It's all going to boil down to your play style. And how quickly you want to make money. I have been doing a couple of different maps, my own Let's Play, and I find Farming Simulator 22 is a little bit slow to get started, but once you get going, you make money. I don't want to make too much money too quickly, or the map becomes boring. Why? Because you have more money than you know what to do with. Yeah, not a big problem. Ironically, there's an old joke that goes something like, how does a farmer make $1 million? Well, he starts with 2 and goes from there. That is not something that is represented in Farming Simulator. So anyway, I thought you guys might be interested in knowing what productions make money, what productions don't make money. Like I said, the fish farm really caught me off guard. I thought it was going to be a money maker as opposed to a money loser. A few tweaks and yeah, it would be easy enough to turn it into a decent, and I hope the author does this, I hope he turns it into a decent money maker. I don't want it to be a cash machine, but I also don't want it to lose money. The other thing to remember with something, well, not necessarily this one, but most productions, by this one I mean the Grape Warehouse, but with most productions like the Fish Farm, it takes up a decent size. It took up most of this area here before I put in the Grape and Olive Warehouse. So you're losing valuable agricultural land, which again is your opportunity cost. So why am I going to lose money to the fish farm production on top of losing money by losing agricultural land? Those are just some things to consider. Anyway, on that note, I hope you found this video useful and it gives you something to consider when selecting productions. Decide how much money you want to make from productions. There's a lot more we could talk about. Like I said, there's even the government subsidy sign. At some point it reaches a point why you just don't plant the government subsidy sign and make as much money as you do with some of the productions. I don't know. That way you don't have to worry about distribution and sales. If you found this video helpful, make sure you give it a like. It really helps the algorithm out. And please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about productions, whether some of the modded productions are excessive or whether they are money losers. And finally, whether or not you would like to see an analysis of various productions to see how profitable they are. Again, thanks for watching. Take care, Jay.